expecting our city residents to live here, then what we need to start doing is everything in our power to ensure that they can afford to live here.
It's not easy to leave your roots. It's not easy to leave the neighborhoods that witnessed you grow up.
In 2022, Melissa Beltran was making $44,000 working for the city's Public Health Commission, barely keeping up with rent.
I remember
What?
trying to go through the Shelter Avenue, having hiccups in that, and it just felt really difficult.
She has since received a raise. It's helped, but like so many, she was forced to consider leaving the city she loves.
Heartbreaking.
Mr. Clerk, would you please?
On Wednesday, City Council scheduled a hearing to discuss access to affordable housing and increased pay for city workers.
And my hope is that this hearing order will open up the dialogue.
The average monthly rent in Boston is more than $3,900 compared to the national average, just over $1,700. While according to the city's earning report, 7,500 city employees make less than $30,000 a year. For inspiration, City Council is looking to cities like New York, where trade unions have committed millions to support a similar initiative. In the meantime, officials say police, fire, sanitation workers, clerks, and more are leaving the city that needs them.
It costs too much to live here, while working for the city.
The city does have a program that provides up to $10,000 for eligible employees needing help with housing, though the workers we spoke to say it's not enough.
What? Welcome back to What TV, y'all. Things that make you say what. Thank you for rocking with your boy Ace. We're going to want you to hit the subscribe button. A lot of people have been watching our channel. We want you to hit the subscribe button because we care like no one else cares. Listen, y'all, if you don't know, rent has been going up across the city, across many states across America, y'all. Now, we're tapping in on Boston because they're saying in Boston, not even the fire department, people who are on the police department, EMS workers, okay? People who work for the city, mailmen, they can't even afford rent. What's going on? Boston, tap in. Because we're looking across the city and we did a video on tiny homes. You see it. Tiny homes are the new projects. And when speaking of the projects, we've seen projects starting to be converted into regular luxury. Yes, luxury apartments, projects, y'all. So now we see in Boston that they're having a hard time. Rent is going up and people like this young lady can't even afford her rent off of social services pay. Meaning if you work for the state of Boston, if you work for the city, if you're employed directly, if you're a police officer, EMS worker, a firefighter, you still can't afford to live there. I mean, things that make you say what? Now, Mayor Sheng Thao, she had tried to put in rent control. And we're going to look at that because we even have people, y'all, that's making over $100,000 that still can't afford to live there. We're not talking about just police officers and firemen. We're talking about people who make $100,000 and more. We've seen people who said they're making $100,000, $120,000. They still can't afford their rent. Okay? It's not only just the firemen and city workers. Let's jump into it because this is happening all across America. Let me know your thoughts. Is rent just crazy everywhere? We got to get used to this because I think things are going bad. We got to think about how rent is going to be in 10 years, y'all. Let's be for real. How are things going to be in 10, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? What's going to happen? People who are making $100,000 can't even survive. Admittedly, openly saying it. And now we have a floor under the housing because of the 3 million migrants that just came in. Housing has a floor under it because it has a demand. The demand went up by 3 million. We just let 3 million into the country just last year. So let's take a look, because people making $100,000 still can't afford to live there.
There's no doubt that you have felt it. Your paycheck just not going as far as it used to.
And as WBC's Brandon Truitt shows us tonight, in Boston, it's even worse.
It's not surprising to me that people are feeling the crunch now more than ever before.
We all knew it was bad, but just how bad is it? In a study done by Smart Asset, the financial info provider concluded making $100,000 a year in Boston really feels more like making $46,000 after taxes, cost of living adjustments, including housing, transportation, and utilities are removed.
You mix all that together, coupled with some slowing wage growth, and you're inevitably going to be feeling this crunch more than before.
I made $100,000 a long time ago, and it wasn't cutting it for me back then.
New York ranked worst on the list. $100,000 equates to just $36,000 there, followed by Honolulu and San Francisco. Boston ranked 9th, just ahead of Seattle, and most of us aren't even close to bringing in $100K.
The latest data from the census shows us that the median household income in Boston is roughly $80,000. Again, that's household, so it could include multiple salaries. On the flip side, that same data shows us that nearly 18% of Bostonians live below the poverty line in one of the most expensive cities in the country.
Experts here say the housing crisis is crippling financial freedoms for many. High demand and low supply that's not keeping up with population growth.
And a lot of it is the permitting process itself, and a lot of it is the cost of land, which is expensive, and the time it takes to get the project from inception to finished product is it's a long walk.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has proposed rent increase caps. It's highly debated, but making its way through the legislative process. As far as any advice, Yusuf says this market is made for side hustles. The gig economy is booming.
Wow. So they tell you that you must have a job and side hustles? You must, hear me now, you must have a regular job plus a side hustle. They're saying that to be able to afford to live in Boston, man. Man, you see the mayor, she tried to put in rent control, but a lot of people are against that because, you know, it's greed and capitalism, and we have landlords, right? I don't have nothing to knock against landlords, but landlords, they want to get paid, man. Car notes are going up. Grandchildren need new cars, new tires. I mean, things are going up. So how do you feel? Should we put rent control? I think soon, nationally, there's going to be something done because we're running out of space. Again, we just let 3 million people. And you got to think about the multiplier effect. Those people will have children. So we could look at a very bad situation 15 years from now. You got to think ahead. Look how they're getting close to New York. Let's run it. Let me know your thoughts. Do we need rent control? Let us know your thoughts.
Plan's got to overcome some big hurdles, but as WBZ's Mike Sullivan found out, at least one rent control skeptic believes Wu's plan could work.
Whether it be a downtown high-rise or a college campus pad,
there's a lot of demand that people want to live in our city.
That's the good news. The bad news:
nobody could argue that rents aren't high and that we do have an issue.
The battle now is how to fix it. Mayor Michelle Wu putting forth a rental control plan to the advisory committee, an idea that hasn't existed since 1994.
Wow. You heard that. It hasn't existed in Boston in over, 20 years? Longer than that. How do you guys feel about putting rent control back in place? We used to have that in different parts of the country. Should rent control go back in place? Should the government mandate a certain increase in rent? Because rent is just out of control right now. Let me know your thoughts.
We eliminated it because it was really closing down future development of housing, which we so desperately needed.
Northeastern professor Barry Bluestone has been studying rent control for decades.
Over and over again, I had to comment on rent control proposals, and I had to say, in the end, don't do this. This one I can fully support.
The mayor's plan will cap rent hikes at 6%, but with poor inflation, that cap could become 10%. New developments in smaller properties like triple-deckers will be exempt for 15 years.
It does make it possible to have a kind of rent control, which does not prohibit the addition of new housing, which we so much need.
Some realtors disagree, saying a similar plan in Oregon saw renters hike prices ahead of legislation passing.
Those caps, they don't last long because the politicians will come back a short time later and cut those caps in half or even smaller.
Greg Vassell is the CEO of the Greater Boston Real Estate Board. He believes this may stunt development.
Who is going to put that kind of capital at risk for multifamily construction for a 15-year window?
What about old buildings, the ones that need more upkeep? The Greater Boston Real Estate Board says old buildings like this one on Comm Ave need to be updated, made more efficient, more green.
How's it going to get paid for?
Instead, he says rent is a supply and demand issue, claiming rent prices went down as people fled the city during the pandemic.
When people came back and the students came back, there was a rebound.
Maybe they froze for a little bit, maybe, but rent certainly didn't go down.
Definitely didn't. And we have an influx of migrants, people. You have to think about the multiplier effect here, right? We're going to see a big boom in the next 10, 15 years as people search out for more housing. We're going to have to develop new villages, or families are just going to have to live together. Let us know your thoughts, man. Let us know your thoughts. Tap in, tap in, tap in. I mean, people making $100,000 a year. A year, y'all, cannot afford to live in Boston right now, saying that it's tough. It's real tough. Let us know how y'all feel.